Hi friends, I'm Emily, the Minimalist Mama, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Have you ever wondered why some people's homes are so cluttered and other people's homes aren't? Finding clutter solutions has fascinated me since I was a teenager. But for a while, I thought that people were either born with a messy gene or with an organizing gene, and there was just not much you could do to change it if you were one way or the other. Then in my own practical experience of having kids and going through postpartum depression and anxiety that was nearly crippling, I learned that actually these are things that are skills that you can learn. And if you have a growth mindset, you can grow and improve on the skills that you need to learn how to declutter and organize. Because what it really comes down to is it's a set of skills and mindsets that allow you to declutter and organize successfully and maintain it for the long term. So that's what I want to talk about today, are 5 of those skills and mindsets shifts to make to be able to not just declutter momentarily, but maintain your progress long term. So in my online course, From Clutter to Clarity, we really dive into these skills and mindset shifts and go into it in much greater depth. But for today's video, I'm just going to skim the surface with these 5 that I think are especially important. So, number 1, how to ask the right questions. If we don't ask the right questions, we don't get the right answers. In my experience, asking, do you need this? Or do you need this? Isn't super helpful, because when we're asked if we need something, our answer is probably, I don't know. None of us can see the future. That's probably why we still have it, because we don't know if we need it or not. What if we need it someday? And a lot of us really smart, creative types can always find a use for something. So asking if we need it is kind of a gray area and a tricky thing for us to decide. Maybe we haven't used it for a long time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't find a use for it, or we never will. So then you can ask, like, well, have you used it in the last 6 months or the year or a year or whatever? And that kind of gray area just makes it hard to decide. On the other hand, if we ask, does this spark joy? That's a yes or no answer. Even if we haven't, it doesn't matter if you just bought it or if you've had it for 10 years. If it's bringing you joy, it's a yes. If it's not, it's a no. If it doesn't spark joy, then you can let it go. Not everyone can easily recognize what sparks joy for them and what doesn't. So I also like to ask people questions like, does this still serve you? Or has it served its purpose for you? Its purpose might be just to teach you what not to buy. Another question I like to ask is, does this fit in the life you want to live in the future, or your ideal life? Like, does this fit with you in that life? When we focus on that ideal life that we're working to create, that brings things into clarity and helps us make decisions much more easily. So number 2 is overcoming the fear of the future and what ifs. What if I need this later? What if, anything can happen? Overcoming those fears is a challenge. For sure. And possibly it's because there was a time in your past when you didn't feel provided for and you really didn't feel like you had enough. However, there is a cost to allowing fear to dictate your choices. And if you struggle with clutter, you already know this. Allowing your fears to dictate your choices costs you rest, peace, joy, clarity. 9 times out of 10, the risk for getting rid of something that you might need later is much less than what it's costing you right now. So number 3 is how to make decisions. A wise woman once said, clutter is nothing more than a postponed decision. The mail piles up because we have to decide what to do with each piece of it. The closet overflows because we have to decide what we're going to do with the clothes that don't fit us anymore. The cabinets overflow because we've been collecting kitchen gadgets for 10 years or more and we haven't decided what actually works for us and is serving us in our life. So the key for this is to avoid decision-making fatigue. We make a million decisions every day, and that's really not an exaggeration. Some studies have estimated the number of decisions we make every day, and it is astronomical. Every decision takes energy. So the best way that I found to avoid decision-making fatigue is to have a simple rubric to follow, a simple set of questions to ask when decluttering, to plan how it's gonna go and make the process as simple and smooth as possible. I also like to declutter at the best time of day for me, when I'm feeling like I have energy and clarity of mind. And it helps to have even like prepped some dinner ahead of time, so I don't have other decisions that I have to make later. But the biggest thing is to have a plan when you're faced with a decision. When you're stuck on making a decluttering decision, you really have three options. You can set it aside and you can move on to a new category or a new area. You can come back to it later. You can put it in the donate pile for now and then see if you change your mind or start missing it later. You can put it in a box with the date on it and see if you open that box for a month. Number 4 is to take responsibility for yourself. So much is actually in your control once you decide to stop blaming everyone else. Even if they are partly responsible. Like, I get it. I have a husband and kids. They are definitely responsible for some messes and clutter around our house. Once you take responsibility for yourself and your stuff, you will realize how much is in your control, especially when you commit to modeling it for them. As the gatekeeper of your home, you are not the victim of everyone else in your home, especially your children's toys. When you take responsibility for emotional spending, then you can find alternate ways to comfort yourself when you need to. But if you continue to blame your lack of time, lack of energy, number of kids, messy husband, etc., hoarding genes, all of those other things that we use as excuses, excuses, but they also do contribute to the problem for sure. But you continue to blame everything on them, you won't be able to make real progress until you fully own your role and your responsibility. The energy that you're spending on rationalizing why things are the way they are, why you can't do it, all of that energy is actually energy that could be spent on finding solutions and getting your own stuff in order and actually making progress and moving forward. You'll either find an excuse or you'll find a way. Really, the amount of energy you spend is going to be the same. So number 5, how to create a new vision for your life and your home. Why are you decluttering in the first place? Or why are you interested in decluttering in the first place? It takes a lot out of you. It's a process. It takes a lot of practice to build up your muscles and your skills. You have to put your past in order in the process and do a lot of mental and emotional work. But having a deep, compelling why behind it is ultimately what's going to get you through. If your why is just to have a nicer home, then really try to dig a little bit deeper into why having a nicer home matters to you. What benefits will you get from having a decluttered home? How is it going to feel? How are you going to feel less stressed? Are you going to be able to be more present with people in your life? Are you going to feel more joy being at home? How will it change the way that you see yourself? Once you know your why and you have that vision of how life could be and how you want it to be, then you aren't going to be tempted to bring clutter back in. You aren't going to be tempted to go back to your old ways. Maintenance becomes much easier when you're really clear about your vision and your why behind what you're doing. So what could change in your space, in your schedule, and in your soul in 30 days? If you're ready to find out, if you maybe feel overwhelmed and not sure where to start with decluttering and organizing, then I hope you will check out my online course, From Clutter to Clarity. It's 30 days to declutter your space, your schedule, and your home. And we walk through, over the course of 6 different modules, we walk through all of those areas. It's very practical and actionable, and we really dive deeper into these mindsets and habits and things that we need to change and shift to maintain your progress long term. So check that out in the description down below. If you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below which of these mindsets or skills have you struggled with in the past and how are you working on it now? I'd love to hear. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.